The house smelled different when I walked in. Something faint and floral. Not the usual mix of wood polish and the kids' after-school snacks. It was almost 6 in the evening, and the light slanting through the front windows made the living room look untouched, staged. That's what hit me first. The stillness. Then I noticed the silence. No kids running around. No piano scales from Olivia's online lesson. Just the low hum of the refrigerator and the click of the front door closing behind me. I dropped my duffel bag on the hardwood floor and stood there for a second, just listening. My name's Ethan. I'm 35. I live in Santa Barbara with my wife Clara and our 2 kids, Olivia and Caleb. I'm a marine biologist. Just got back from a 10-day expedition tagging reef sharks off the Channel Islands. Normally, Clara would be waiting at the kitchen counter when I came home, her hair pulled up and a glass of wine in her hand, talking a mile a minute about the kids or something funny she read. Instead, there was a note on the table. Kids are at Mom's. I'm at the co-op, back by 9. I stared at it for a long time. The co-op. Again. She'd started going there maybe 6 weeks ago. Some kind of art space up in Montecito. She called it therapeutic and energizing. Said it was nice to be around other adults who got it. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Clara had always been into painting, landscapes, ceramics, mixed media. After all, she'd been homeschooling the kids full-time since COVID, and I figured she needed a break. But then the changes started. Small at first. Her wardrobe shifted. Crop tops under linen cardigans, flashy boots, bangles she used to call ridiculous, a new phone case with a sticker that said Divine Femme. And then there was the phone itself, always in her hand, always buzzing. She used to leave it lying around the house, wide open. Now it was locked, always face down, always on silent. I tried brushing off the tension, but it gnawed at me. One night, I asked, "Who've you been texting so much?" She didn't look up. "Friends." "What friends?" "People from the co-op," she said with a shrug. "You wouldn't know them." I knew that tone. I'd heard it once when we were dating and she was still seeing someone else. I didn't like it then. I liked it even less now. A few days later, I was checking our credit statements, routine stuff, making sure nothing slipped past me while I was on the boat. That's when I saw it. Exotic Rhythm Studio, $240. Uber Black, drop-off, private mountain chalet, Topanga. Vino Veloce, $180. The name Exotic Rhythms hit me like a rock to the chest. Clara never took dance classes. She barely exercised outside yoga. I clicked the link. It wasn't a gym. It was a pole fitness and sensual dance center for female empowerment. One of those studios that catered to bachelorette parties and wannabe influencers. The rideshare receipts were even worse. They weren't one-offs. Same address, different days. Whoever lived at that villa wasn't a stranger. I sat back in my chair, the laptop screen glowing. I didn't want to believe it. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just... But I knew better. Clara was drifting, and I was standing there watching it happen in real time. I stared at the living room again, still untouched, and the art books stacked on the side table. When she finally walked in hours later, laughing at something on her phone, wearing a jacket I'd never seen before, I just nodded and said, "Hey!" Inside, something was already cracking. I just hadn't realized how deep it went yet. Clara stumbled through the front door just past midnight. I was sitting on the couch in the dark, pretending to watch some nature documentary, though the sound had been off for an hour. She didn't see me right away. Her heels clicked softly on the tile, and I heard the thunk of her keys landing in the ceramic bowl by the door. She was giggling low and breathy. Her silhouette leaned against the entryway wall, swaying a little. Then she pulled out her phone. A bright screen lit up her face, and she tapped something in. A second later, I heard it. A chime. Then a deep male voice from the speaker, sultry and low. "You looked like a sin tonight, babe." Could barely keep my hands to myself. Next time, no rules. Marco S. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She didn't reply, just smiled. That stupid, drunk, dreamy smile. I stood up. "Who's Marco?" She jolted like she'd been shocked. clutching the phone to her chest and spinning around. "Oh my God, Ethan." Her voice was too loud. "Jesus, you scared me." I didn't say anything, just waited. She blinked at me, makeup smudged, lipstick half faded. Her hair was messy in that deliberately undone way that didn't come from being at an art class. "I asked you a question." Her smile melted. "I can explain. Start with who Marco is." Clara sat down on the edge of the ottoman like her legs suddenly couldn't hold her. She stared at the floor. For a second, I thought she might lie. Instead, she laughed softly to herself. "He's someone from the sculpture workshop." My throat tightened. I sat down across from her, elbows on my knees. "And?" She rubbed her eyes. "And I've been seeing him." "How long?" "Since April." I swallowed hard. "April? That was almost 6 months ago." She looked up. Her eyes were glossy, but she wasn't crying. "I didn't mean for it to happen, Ethan. It just did." "No," I said calmly, "it didn't just happen." She didn't argue. Just nodded like that was fair. "I felt invisible. You were always gone. Conferences, tagging trips, that fellowship in San Diego. I was drowning here. Homeschooling. Cleaning. Going to sleep alone most nights. I needed something." I felt the words hitting me one after another like stones. "And Marco was that something?" He listened. He saw me. And yeah, he touched something in me that I didn't even know I'd lost. Her voice cracked a little then. "But I still love you, Ethan." "I do." I sat back slowly, arms crossed over my chest. I didn't say anything. Didn't yell. Didn't cry. Because all I could think about was how I'd been busting my ass to make a life for this family. And now everything I thought was solid wasn't. Upstairs, Olivia shifted in her sleep. Caleb's night light glowed under his door. I looked back at Clara. The woman I married was still sitting there. But the marriage we had? That was already gone. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Clara humming in the kitchen. Like nothing had happened the night before. Like she hadn't just blown our whole marriage sideways while our kids slept upstairs. I came down in a t-shirt and sweats, not expecting to eat, just needing something to do with my hands. She slid a mug across the table toward me, still in that humming mood, hair tied up in a bun, sleeves pushed past her elbows. She was making eggs. "You're calm," I said. She glanced at me over her shoulder, spatula in hand. "I didn't sleep much." I figured. Clara turned off the burner and sat down with her plate, her eyes studying me like I was some fragile object she had to deliver bad news to. "I've been thinking," she said slowly. "About us. About what happened last night." "You mean the part where you told me you've been screwing Marco since April?" Her expression tightened. "I know how that sounded, but it's not that simple." "Sure it is." She took a deep breath. "Look, I love our family. I love what we've built. But something has to change. I can't go back to how things were." I leaned back. "So what are you suggesting?" She looked me dead in the eye. "An open marriage." The words hung there like smoke. "You're serious?" "It's not about permission," she said quickly. "It's about being honest. About evolving. Marco is important to me. But so are you. So are the kids. This doesn't have to be an ending." I stared at her. "You want to keep sleeping with him and still be married to me?" "Yes. We could set boundaries. Rules. We'd stay in the same house, keep raising the kids together, keep everything intact." Everything intact. I felt my skin prickle. Not with rage, but something colder. Like a fuse burning low. "I see," I said, sipping my coffee. "And what would I be doing during all this, evolving?" She blinked, then shrugged. "You'd be free to do the same." I nodded slowly. "Okay." Her eyebrows lifted, surprised. "You'll think about it?" "Sure," I said. "I'll think about it." I wasn't going to think about it. I wasn't going to scream either. That's what she expected, some dramatic explosion she could twist into a reason to leave with the kids. No. I wasn't going to make this easy for her. I'd play along. For now. 2 days later, I met with a divorce attorney. Her name was Helen, mid-40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense energy. The kind of woman who'd seen every betrayal a marriage could offer and didn't flinch at any of them. She didn't blink when I told her about Clara's affair. She only nodded. "She's still in the home?" "For now," I said. "And the kids?" "With us. I work part-time from home these days, marine consulting gigs, mostly." Helen tapped her pen against a yellow legal pad. "Good. Keep it that way. Start documenting everything. Her absences. Her behavior. Anything that might suggest she's prioritizing her affair over her responsibilities as a parent." She slid a stack of lined paper toward me. "Start a parenting journal. Make daily notes. Nothing fancy. Just record what you do for the kids. Meals, pickups, bedtime, appointments. Keep your tone factual. Emotionless. Judges like patterns. I left her office with a manila folder tucked under my arm and a weight in my chest that felt heavier than the backpack I wore on shark tagging dives. That night, after Clara went upstairs to take a long bath, her new ritual after these co-op outings, I pulled out a notepad and wrote down everything I had done that day. 7:20 a.m. made breakfast, oatmeal for both kids. 8:15 a.m. walked Olivia through her math lesson. 10 a.m. took Caleb to pediatrician, mild rash, prescribed cream. 2 p.m. helped Olivia with her art project. 5:30 p.m. dinner, grilled chicken, rice, green beans. 8 p.m. bedtime. Read to Caleb. Discussed volcanoes with Olivia. I kept it dry, like Helen said. No feelings. Just facts. The next day, I called a private investigator. Discreet, I told him. No confrontations. I just need logs of where she goes and when. Photos. Dates. I'm not trying to get her arrested. Just building a record. He nodded like he'd heard this exact request 1,000 times. You'll get weekly updates. With that in motion, I went to work rearranging my life. I spoke to the university and officially stepped down from field work for the rest of the year. Took on remote research analysis instead. Less thrilling, but it meant I could be home every day. I became the kids' rock. School lessons, meal prep, grocery runs, bedtime routines, every detail flowed through me now. Clara, meanwhile, was weightless. Light on her feet. Giggling at her phone, humming at the sink. She wore silk scarves and oversized sunglasses now, like she was starring in some artsy indie film about freedom and rediscovery. Marco says I should try modeling for some of his installations, she said one morning over coffee. That right? I asked. She beamed. He says I have a real Venus vibe. I just smiled and nodded. Let her talk. Let her float. Let her forget the ground she was walking on was shifting beneath her. Every word, every skipped meal with the kids, every missed recital, I was logging it all. I wasn't going to fight for our marriage. I was going to fight for our children. And I wasn't going to lose. The file from the investigator came on a Friday afternoon. A plain manila envelope slid through the mail slot while I was playing Legos with Caleb. I waited until both kids were upstairs for quiet time before opening it. Inside were 3 weeks' worth of logs and a flash drive. I scanned the report first. June 3rd, subject left residence at 3:45 p.m. Did not return until 11:30 p.m. Location verified via rideshare to Chalet Loma Vista, Marco SS known address. Miss Child's scheduled piano recital at 5 p.m. I flipped the page. There were more entries like that, dozens of them. Weeknights. Mid-mornings. Entire Sundays she was supposedly at the co-op when in fact she was soaking in Mountain View jacuzzis and sipping wine with a man who wore silk robes and called himself a creative healer. Photos confirmed it, her stepping out of an Uber in heels she never wore around here, laughing as Marco opened the gate to his absurd villa in the hills. Sometimes she had gift bags. One looked like it held designer cologne. Another had a bottle of vintage wine from a shop in Montecito. I loaded the flash drive into my laptop. Time-stamped photos, date-logged surveillance stills, and even one blurry video from a gas station where they were kissing against his car like two kids who had just cut class. It wasn't just an affair anymore. It was a lifestyle. That night, Clara sat across from me at dinner, talking about some transformational clay project she was starting. Olivia was trying to show her a drawing of a sea turtle. Caleb was spilling water from his cup. Clara barely looked up. I might do a weekend intensive soon, she said, waving her fork in the air. Marco's mentor is coming in from Sedona. Apparently she's psychic and makes her own paint from crushed geodes. Cool, I said, cutting up Caleb's chicken. When would that be? She shrugged. Next weekend, maybe? I'll figure something out for the kids. Right, I said, glancing at the fridge calendar. Like you figured out last Friday? She blinked. What? Olivia's piano recital. She froze. I told you I had a workshop, she said quietly. Right, I nodded. Up in the mountains. That co-op must have amazing views. Her eyes narrowed slightly. But I smiled. Polite. Unshakable. That weekend I added more to the journal. Saturday, Clara absent. Took kids to park, lunch at Chick-fil-A. Olivia asked if mommy was mad at her. Reassured her. Sunday, Caleb asked to sleep in Dad's bed. Let him. Read him dinosaur book. The more Clara drifted, the closer the kids pulled in. They noticed. Of course they did. Children always know when something's off even if they can't explain it. Clara, though? She seemed blissfully unaware. She floated through the days like she was on vacation from responsibility. She giggled over text messages, took long bubble baths with headphones in, bought new clothes on our joint card and never asked permission. But I let it slide. Every receipt, every skipped obligation, every night away from home, I let it pile up. Because the higher she built her little fantasy tower with Marco, the harder it would crash when I pulled the ground out from underneath her. And that moment was getting close. It started on a Wednesday. Clara packed a canvas duffel and told me she was going to a pottery retreat for 4 days. She kissed Caleb on the head and told Olivia to stay curious. Then she looked at me and smiled. Try not to burn the house down. I forced a small laugh. I'll do my best. I watched from the driveway as the Uber pulled away, the back of her floral scarf fluttering through the open window. As soon as the car disappeared around the corner, I turned to the kids. We're going on a little adventure, I said. 2 hours later, we were pulling into a quiet cul-de-sac in Galita, 5 minutes from Olivia's school. It was a modest 2-story house with a fenced yard and sunflowers along the walkway. I'd leased it under my name 2 weeks prior, furnished it in 4 days, and stocked it with everything the kids loved: same cereal, same comforters, same framed family photos. Just minus one person. I'd waited for Clara's retreat. I didn't want her here when I left. We moved in quietly. No drama. I made it feel like a camping trip. We made popcorn, built pillow forts, let the dog up on the couch for once. Olivia asked why we weren't sleeping at home, and I just told her we're trying something new for a little while. She didn't ask twice. The next morning, the delivery confirmation hit my phone. Clara was served at 8:13 a.m. at the retreat lodge. Divorce papers, custody motion, financial separation notices. Everything. I kept the kids out late that day: library, ice cream, sunset walk on the pier. I didn't want them in the house when it happened. That night, Clara called. She didn't say hello. Are you out of your mind? She snapped. You filed for divorce while I was in a remote workshop? You moved the kids. I stayed calm. The kids are safe. That's all that matters. You blindsided me. I gave you months, I said. I just didn't shout about it. There was silence. Then a low, sharp exhale. You're going to regret this. I hung up. She showed up the next day. Our old house was half empty, just furniture and the echoes of a life she thought was still intact. She stood in the living room for almost 15 minutes, according to the Ring camera, staring at the space where Caleb's playpen used to be. She didn't cry, but she looked lost. The house she floated through like a guest? It wasn't hers anymore. And she finally realized it. Clara arrived at court in a slate gray wrap dress and sunglasses too large for the room. Marco wasn't with her. I wasn't surprised. This wasn't the kind of performance he'd want to be part of. She looked polished, rehearsed, like someone told her she needed to look composed and motherly in front of a judge. But I could see the tension behind her smile. The stiff jaw. The way she kept smoothing down her skirt even though it wasn't wrinkled. She didn't glance at me as she sat across the aisle with her attorney. Mine, Helen, sat beside me, flipping casually through the binder we had compiled over the last 3 months. Her red pen circled key items like she was grading an essay. Let them make the first move, she whispered. And they did. Clara's attorney launched into a passionate defense of her role as a stay-at-home mom. My client dedicated the last 7 years to raising her children full-time while Mr. Mason traveled for work. She put her career on hold to educate and nurture their development. She now requests shared custody and reasonable spousal support to maintain the life the children are used to. Clara gave a somber little nod at the word sacrifice. When it was Helen's turn, she stood calmly and passed the judge a packet. Exhibit A, she said. Documented logs of parental responsibilities compiled by Mr. Mason over the last 4 months. She let the silence linger as the judge flipped through the pages. Exhibit B, verified logs from a licensed private investigator. These include photos and time-stamped records of Mrs. Mason's repeated absences from the family home during key parental obligations, including a missed piano recital and 4 weekend outings during the children's scheduled school prep hours. The judge raised an eyebrow. Helen continued. Exhibit C, financial statements showing shared marital funds were used to support frequent overnight stays at a private villa and luxury purchases for an extramarital partner. Clara's jaw tensed. Her attorney leaned in, whispering fast. But the judge didn't say a word for a full minute. He just read. Finally, he looked up. Mrs. Mason, he said. Can you explain these repeated absences? Clara shifted in her seat. I was rediscovering myself. I was exploring creative therapy. With a man your children have never met? The judge asked, his voice calm but edged. Clara hesitated. It was complicated. The judge sighed. I'm concerned about the pattern here. The children's best interest is paramount, and from the documentation it appears Mr. Mason has been the primary caregiver. Her lawyer tried to interrupt, but the judge raised a hand. Mrs. Mason will be granted supervised visitation twice a week. Full custody will remain with Mr. Mason pending further review. Regarding spousal support, he glanced down at the financials again. Due to voluntary abandonment of family responsibilities and misuse of marital funds, we find the standard claim for support unjustified. A reduced, temporary stipend will be provided for a period not exceeding 6 months. Clara's face went blank. Her shoulders slumped. Her mouth opened, then closed. I didn't gloat. I didn't even look at her. I just stared ahead, focused on the only thing that mattered now. My kids were safe, and I wasn't going to let her undo that. Not again. Clara moved in with Marco 2 weeks after the hearing. They rented a small downtown loft above a vintage clothing shop, the kind of place with exposed brick, succulents in the windows, and no insulation. The kids visited once a week, supervised. I stayed out of the logistics. Clara handled pickup arrangements through the court liaison. We rarely spoke. Marco didn't attend the visits. From what Olivia told me, he works from home but doesn't like noise. Caleb once asked if he was Mom's art boss. I didn't correct him. Clara started sending texts again, short, cautious messages. Do they like their new school? I saw Olivia's drawing on Instagram. It was beautiful. Tell Caleb I miss him. I answered when it made sense. Nothing more. Life at home settled into rhythm quickly. I'd wake up before the kids, get breakfast going, check in on oceanic data logs for a marine reserve project, then walk Olivia to school while Caleb rode his scooter ahead of us. They flourished with the structure. Olivia took up piano seriously, practicing each day without being reminded. Caleb became obsessed with building model ships, and every few nights we'd watch ocean documentaries together, his choice, not mine. I cut my consulting load in half. Turned down fieldwork offers. I didn't need the travel anymore. I didn't want the distance. Everything I needed was here, within reach. We made new Saturday traditions, grocery trips, hikes by the cliffs, movie nights on the couch with popcorn and a giant blanket. They stopped asking when Mom would be back home. I didn't bring her up unless they did. Once, while tucking Olivia into bed, she looked up and whispered, "You're doing a really good job, Daddy." I had to sit on the edge of the bed and breathe for a second. There were hard moments, of course. Caleb got upset after one of Clara's visits and refused to talk for an hour. Olivia once drew a family portrait with Clara outside the house, alone in the corner. I didn't ask what it meant. I didn't need to. Clara was still in their lives. Just less. Her messages stayed formal. Mechanical. Like she didn't know how to speak to me anymore now that the game was over and the mask was off. And maybe she didn't. Maybe the life she imagined with Marco wasn't quite what she thought it would be. But that was her world now. Mine was here, warm, steady, and quiet. It didn't look like the life we'd planned. It looked better. It's been a year. I turned 36 last month, quietly. Olivia baked a cake, chocolate a little lopsided, and Caleb made me a card shaped like a whale. We spent the evening playing Uno on the living room floor. No fanfare. No noise. Just peace. I've stopped thinking about Clara the way I used to. I don't check her social media. I don't ask the kids for updates. I've built firm boundaries, and surprisingly, she's respected them. Our texts now are strictly about the children. No lingering questions. No late-night guilt. Just logistics. Marco, from what I gather, is still around. But there's no light in Clara's voice anymore, not even when she mentions him briefly during drop-offs. Whatever spark they had, it's flickering. I don't celebrate that. I don't even care, really. She made her choices. I made mine. And mine brought me here. I work from home now almost entirely. The university keeps me on as a remote advisor for conservation studies. I mentor grad students, review field data, and once a month I give a virtual lecture about migratory shark behavior. My name still shows up in marine biology journals, and that's enough. I get to pack the kids' lunches in the morning, walk them to school, and be there every single time they look over their shoulder at the gate. I'm their anchor now. They're constant. Some nights, when they're asleep and the house is still, I sit on the back porch with a beer and look up at the stars. I think about the version of me from 2 years ago, the one who thought being the provider was the same as being present. The one who thought stability would protect a marriage. The one who didn't see it falling apart until it was already broken. I don't hate the version of me, but I'm not him anymore. Now, I know that love isn't just what you give. It's what you protect. And sometimes, the only way to save your family is to walk away from the person tearing it apart. I didn't just survive the wreckage Clara left behind. I rebuilt from it. And what I have now, it's real. It's quiet. It's mine.